So today we're going to take a look at this video here, announcing the 2024 Valorant Champions Tour, because I'm going to give my takes on some of the things that are included in this video. I've skipped the first minute and a half because there isn't too much interesting in it, and so this is really just going to be focusing on what's happening next year.
Talking about Ascensions, next year we'll continue evolving challengers, creating new opportunities for those who aspire to go pro. First, we're expanding the challengers calendar to run year-round and provide more consistent competition within Tier 2, as well as move Ascensions to happen after Champions, so it has its own moment in the spotlight.
Okay, so if you've been keeping up with the news, you already knew this. The Ascension is going after Champs, so in September instead, and that they're bringing the season forward. I wasn't quite sure of whether they were going to bring this year, or 2024 year, forward, but it seems like that is not the case. That's going to start in February, and it will be the 2025 season, which is going to start, it looks like, in about October. Might be a little weird for teams that make it to Ascension, but don't qualify for Ascension, in that they are not going to have a massive gap between, playing in that tournament and then starting their next season, essentially. So that might be a little awkward for those teams, but other than that, this is a good change.
We're also going to introduce a team affiliation and player loan system, allowing teams to more freely exchange players between Tier 1 and Tier 2. That will also include game changers, providing the same opportunities and mobility to all players in our ecosystem.
So we knew about this, the little loan system thing. Don't know how well that will work. We'll have to see. I kind of doubt a lot of teams will really use it, but it's interesting that they include game changers here as well. Where, yeah, maybe an international league team, signs a sixth player as someone who could play in game changers and then loans them out. Who knows? Who knows? We'll have to see. But yeah, I'm not convinced that this will be used a lot.
And yes, the Game Changers Championship will also return in 2024 as the final global event of the season. The last piece of the puzzle is Premier, which will create a foundational layer for Valorant's path to pro, starting in-game.
So with the Premier stuff, we'll need more details, really. It says promotion in here, and the idea is that if you win, I assume the top, level, tier 20 or whatever it is, the top one, of Premier, that you'll, get promoted to the local challenger leagues. I assume that is what will happen, but we'll need more details.
Starting in-game. Stay tuned for a more detailed update on all things Tier 2 later this year. Now, let's talk about the top levels of competition in our sport, international leagues, and global events. For 2024, we designed the season with better progression, where the stakes and the scale of competitions increase as we get deeper into the calendar. Our first big change is the introduction of championship points.
Okay, so they announced this is a big change. It's a bit of an EA Sports move, kind of sounds like, where really you're just adding a feature that was just taken out this year. And it was taken out this year just because of lock-in, right? Lock-in was kind of a weird, singular limb, no one knows who's good, no one knows who's bad kind of thing. So they didn't include any points for that, and that meant that whoever went to Masters Tokyo went straight to Champs, right? Whoever qualified for Tokyo was just at Champs. But if you go years prior to this year, this is how they did it, right? There was a point system in place, right? I can think of Supermassive Blaze went to Masters Berlin, right? The second ever international tournament, but they didn't do well enough in the rest of the year to make it to Champs. They didn't have enough points to actually make it to Champs anyway. So, this is something that, yeah, was existed before, but now exists again. Interesting that they did note that things later on in the year, I assume, are going to be worth more points than they are at the start of the year. So keep that in your head as well, that as we go further in the year, kind of things maybe matter a bit more in terms of qualifying for Champs.
Across the international leagues and global events, teams will earn points based on their performance. The rewards for winning will increase with each subsequent competition, and throughout the season, qualification for global events will be based on the team's most recent performance and championship points.
So they say something quite interesting there, that they didn't specifically mention qualification for Champs will be determined by points. They actually just said global events. Does that mean that the second Masters tournament is going to be determined by points? Because that might be a little weird if you have a team that, has in the qualification event at that, right, in the playoffs or whatever, has finished second, but a team that finished fourth, that maybe that team beat, qualifies instead because they did better earlier in the year. That feels a little weird. Like for champs, I think we're all happy with it, but I'm kind of hoping that it doesn't apply to anything else.
Rewarding those who are great at the moment and those who have been consistent throughout the season. One thing we loved this year was starting the season with a moment that pitted regions against each other, setting the tone and the expectations for the year ahead. So starting in 2024, we'll kick off the season with a 2-week tournament in each international league that will qualify a total of 8 teams for the first Masters of the year. Both competitions featuring a double elimination format.
Okay, let's talk about this. There's a lot to talk about with this. So we got a 2-week tournament here between the international leagues that's going to be double elim to then qualify for an 8-team Masters, which means that the top 2 teams from each of the 4 regions, we'll get to that later in the video, but 4 regions will qualify. So that's China, Pacific, EMEA, and Americas will qualify. So you have to finish in the top 2 of this. The problem, and there's multiple things we're going to talk about here. The problem with this tournament, little kickoff tournament, which I'm assuming will start, and don't believe in the size of this, by the way. He just said it's 2 weeks, so it's not going to take from mid-January to mid-March. Don't worry about that. It will probably start in, I assume, mid to late January and run to the end of kind of January, start of Feb, somewhere in here, right? And then there'll be a little like 2-week break right before the teams actually travel to the Masters and whatever. And, you know, we play that. The problem that I have with this kickoff tournament is, you may know, there are 11 teams in each of the leagues right now, right? Because of the Ascension team, the initial 10 plus the 1 Ascension team. How'd you run a double elim bracket with 11 teams? Don't know. That will be a very interesting thing to see how they figure that out. Because again, you might be like, oh, but they did it with 7 teams in LCQ, which is also a very ugly number to have to, you know, try and figure a bracket out for. And you're right, they did do it with 7 teams as well. Problem is, with the LCQ where they had 7 teams, they were able to seed those teams based on what had happened earlier in the year, right? So, for instance, Crew played MIBR in that kind of first game because those 2 teams finished last in the league season. The problem with this tournament is that the teams might be completely different. And so how do you seed them, right? Do you seed them based off what happened last year? But is that not unfair to teams that might have changed their entire roster and are now being based off what happened last year, even though they're a completely different team, right? Where do you put the Ascension team? Did they just get put last as the lowest seed, even though, you know, are they really the worst teams, the Ascension teams in these leagues? Probably not, right? Like, how do you do this? I don't know. It will be interesting to see. And remember, this is to qualify for, you know, a Masters here. Like, you know, starting later on is a big advantage. And being seeded unfairly seems like it might be a bit of a kick in the teeth. So that's maybe something I'll be interested in seeing how that works out. But then the Masters tournament as well is only 8 teams, right? Which is not a big tournament. This tournament won't last long at all. The start of the year, it's interesting, I guess, in a way, but I do have some questions about how this will go. And also that this won't be worth many championship points, right? This won't probably be worth that much overall.
Both competitions featuring a double elimination format. And while we're on Masters, I am very happy to announce that Masters 1 2024 is going to Madrid. We have an incredibly passionate community in Spain, and we cannot wait to bring everyone together to witness the very unique energy of the Spanish crowd. From there, we're
so it's in Madrid.
Into the main part of our season. Following Masters Madrid, teams will battle through the first stage of IELTS, which will crown a winner, award championship points, and qualify 12 teams for the second Masters of the year that will happen in Shanghai, China.
Okay, so the next part of the year is like it was this year with Masters Tokyo at the end, right? A big international league, like everyone plays everyone, big group stage, playoffs, you know, qualify for Shanghai, right? And it's 12 teams, so it's pretty much exactly how it was this year. And yeah, that's how it'll be. 3 teams from each region will go to Shanghai and play in a normal Masters tournament. Again, I assume that whoever the top seed is will go straight to the playoffs like it was before for Masters Tokyo. So yeah, finishing first like matters quite a lot for those teams. But yeah, other than that, this is all as it was, completely normal. What the hell is this? What the hell is International League Stage 2? Is that an LCQ? I don't know if this is just mislabeled and this should say LCQ. I have really no idea because they don't mention it in the video, which I don't get. You know, this year's LCQ was awkward because you have 3 teams qualifying for champs directly and then LCQ for that 4th slot, right? And it was awkward for, you know, because there's 10 teams, right? Minus the 3 that are already going, that equals 7. 7 is a very awkward number to make a tournament for. But this year, this is 11. Minus 3 equals 8. 8 is a really nice number to make, you know, one of these LCQs for. So having an LCQ would make a lot of sense because the format is going to be just so easy to do, right? You're not going to have to come up with this like complex, like weird stuff. You can just have a normal bracket with 8 teams, right? A normal double elim bracket. So let's say there's a Fnatic next year, right? Let's say a team wins this and this, right? They win both Masters tournament. It doesn't matter what they do in this, they're going to have enough points to qualify, right? Like they could finish dead last and it's not going to matter because they're going to finish in the top 4 of their league. Right? Even if you just win Shanghai, you probably will have enough points, right? So I don't really get that if they make them play in this, because then, like, what's the point in playing?
By August, teams will have played through the season kickoff, 2 Masters, and 2 stages of international leagues, earning championship points along the way. The top 16 teams in the VCT will then qualify to champions, closing out our season and crowning the best Valorant team in the world. Finally, I am extremely excited to share that China will join the Americas.
Now, one thing I did notice in this video, just watch Leo here. Doesn't this, the way he does this, it kind of Trumpian the way he says China with the fingers.
I am extremely excited to share that China will join the Americas, EMEA, and Pacific as the 4th official league in the VCT.
Okay, so China's joining. We kind of knew that this was coming anyway, but if you're a fan of Chinese orgs or whatever, I'm sure you like League or, you know, whatever. Keep an eye out for what teams will be there. I assume
the Chinese community has shown their potential. Teams have continuously made their mark at global events. And with the launch of Valorant in China, we want to officially welcome the community into our global sport. So that's it, folks. Next year is going to be incredible. We have a new kickoff tournament to start the season, more teams, more leagues, 4 global events, the return of game changers in the off-season, and the evolution of challengers. We appreciate your passion, your energy, and your enthusiasm. Now, let's get ready for the conclusion of Champions and find out who's going to be the 2023 Valorant World Champion.
Okay, so that's it. As I said, some interesting things, some things that I'm a little unsure of, but I guess we'll have to see closer to the time. But yeah, that's the schedule. Let me know what you think in the comments down below.